interesting evening for you tonight. I know we have two people on stage, but really I'm going to do all the talking, so I'm sure you'll have sense. Okay, actually we did think that before we get the fireside chat underway, we just thought we would give you a little bit of context in terms of the industry and this area and the things that we at Wesley Clover are focused on very aggressively. And it sets the stage for the commentary that will be shared with us shortly. So we're targeting the next technology waves. Terry will probably speak when he's allowed about waves in the past. And as you all know, he's caught some pretty big waves and built some tremendous companies, created outstanding employment and lifestyles, even generated great government tax revenue for some people. But we're not done, and nor is the industry. And we're thinking now nationally, Canada. What are some of the waves that are coming or underway? And many of you guys are already, sorry, that was a bad word, I can't use it anymore, I apologize. Many of you people are already involved in that and well down the path. But we need more than just the hard work. We need government initiatives, and we need marketing, and we need all sorts of things. So what am I talking about? Let's just give you some data. 5G, no mystery to this audience, certainly the area we live in with its deep networking heritage. It's still not fully released. The releases are still being frozen right through 2023. So it is actually still early. Not early for, say, carriers and Nokias and Ericssons and others. They're well down the track. But in terms of an opportunity, they're saying, in this case it's ABI research on the left, and I apologize if you can't read this at the back. I can make these available if it matters. ABI research says that the value around 5G could exceed $7 trillion US by the end of this decade. That's not trivial. And our point is Canada needs to have a part in that. On the other side, at a different research group, McKinsey Global, they analyzed 4 use cases. And they said that just those 4 alone could drive between $1.2 and $2 billion in GDP over the same time frame. There's already been $166 billion invested chasing 5G. And it's not even fully defined. So this is a wave, a huge global wave that is well underway. How about things called cloud and edge computing? Absolutely another wave. Already $136 billion investment in 2021 alone, across the world, of course. But you can see a quote here. It really just says, for those who can't read it, the need to push computing resources and storage resources to the edge, where all this data is going to be generated and measured and analyzed and used. It's driving a massive, massive industry. Other smaller but still important ones. Integration platforms. $5.6 billion this year alone. One more. Low-code application platforms. And don't worry if you don't know what these mean. Just recognize it's a wave. $7.4 billion this year. 28% increase from the year before. We call those waves. It just so happens that we're following these ones because we have companies and investments that are active in that area. But that sets the stage. How can Ottawa in aggregate and more so the nation participate in these activities beyond what we're already doing? Because I know that you probably said to yourself, well, we're all over that. Good on you guys. Clearly you've got a great addressable market. But now I'm going to hand it to the 2 gentlemen to my left here. I don't think they need an introduction, but just in case. Mr. Jacques Chrétien, thank you, sir, for joining us. It's always a distinct pleasure. And the other guy, Terry.
Sean, we have a microphone.
Yeah.
Have to talk now?
Can we talk? I
We'll need it.
don't know. Just switch it on. Can you hear us? Can you hear us at the back?
Est-ce que vous m'entendez en arrière? Alors écoutez-moi. Go ahead. speak in your mother language.
I'll do whatever you wish, but in Welsh there'll be lots of wives.
Je suis très content d'être l'invité de mon ami Terry ce soir pour parler de demain, de l'avenir. I won't translate because everybody understood me, I know. No, but I'm happy to be here. You know, I know Terry since many years, and we were involved in the development of the period where he moved from small business to big business in stage
And global.
and global. And I was with him, you know, I watch him from distance, and he was a friend, and I always admired what he's done around here. You know, this part of the town has become what it is because of Terry Matthews and his collaborators, and I would like to say thank you for what you've done for this. I'm involved, I'm still working, Terry. Retirement doesn't want me, what the hell I can do? And the other day I was talking with the president of Hydro-Quebec, discussing about hydrogen and that type of problem, and utilization of our resources and so on. And she said to me, you know, I'm very impressed. You're 88 and you're working on the future. But I said, wait a minute, I have 9 great-grandchildren, so I'm working for them. How many guys can claim that he was swimming a few weeks ago with his great-grandson? How many guys can claim that he went fishing with one of his great-grandchild on the road to the lake? They met 2 moose. And you had to stop not to kill them. And after that we caught some trout. It's the only thing that can happen in Canada. And for a great-grandfather, only to me that can happen. So it's a great souvenir for him and for me too. And Terry asked me to come here to talk about the future and what Canada can do into that. And we're supposed to have a dialogue. You know, if I turn the mic to Terry, it will become a monologue. So I'm very prudent, I speak first. I'm teasing you, Terry. You know, he's a good friend.
You bring up an incredibly important thing to me. I'm not going to just sit idle and watch my grandchildren just be at a cash desk at Walmart. Give them opportunities for the future. Fight for that. So I totally am in line with your thinking.
Well, Canada is in a very good position compared to anybody else. Of course, the world is in a big turmoil, but the world always been in a big turmoil. The news are always bad. In 1956, I was the president of the Liberal Club at Laval University, so I'm involved in public affairs since 1956. I got up every morning looking at the news. I never see one headline, Canada had a good day yesterday. We might have one good day. But, you know, we live with, that is media, democracy, the possibility of having contrary views, and we live with that. But we've come a hell of a long way, and we have a great future.
Yeah.
Why? Is because despite everybody looks at Canada as just a country with natural resources. I remember one day, I will not name it because was one of the greatest knowledgeable person in finance for the world. And we were having problems in the economy, and I asked him a question. I said, why the Canadian dollar is not doing well? He says, because you depend too much on resources, and resources are going down. I said, fine. So I will ask you a question. What is the proportion of the Canadian economy that depends on natural resources? And he said something like 60%. He was a guy very well known in the money markets of the world. I said, really? I said, it's 28. You know, he was very surprised. And it's an example here, this part of the town and the part of the province. You know, it's Canada here and all this area. It's not resources, it's brain power that has been used. And we have to keep doing that. You know, I can see the challenges that we face in the future, but, you know, we will meet it because, you know, we have great things to offer to the world. We have a very stable nation. In a way, you know, we had some problems, but relatively easy compared to the others. I was involved in the 2 referendums in Quebec, but now nobody talks about it anymore. You know, the Parti Québécois will probably have 1 seat or 0. And because the people in Quebec, they are worried about what is the future for them. And the brain power, they understand that. They have become citizens of the globe, like we all are. And we have, you know, the stability, we have the resources. You know, with all what is happening with the demand for energy, and, you know, we're in a very good position because we have plenty of all that. Some are more difficult to use, like oil and natural gas, but we don't use any more of coal. You know, we have already passed that. That's something that has not yet happened in Europe, especially in Germany. Now, the opening coal mine these days to have cars, electrical cars. It's a bit stupid to use it, make electricity with coal to have a car that does not pollute, you know. Coal pollute more than the car. And anyway, that's the world we're living with today. So we are in that position. You know, we have a lot of hydroelectric power, we have so much land, and that we can develop a lot of wind power without offending the people too much. Even we can use some power. You know, people are surprised that we can use some power in Canada, but we can. And there's a lot of opportunity. And we have a country that has a good reputation. Not as good as when we were in government. In passing. But it is. You know, we have a good reputation. We have a diversified country. You know, that is a tolerant country with 2 official languages. We don't mind about the religion, the color of the people. You know, we live in peace. We don't have ghettos, as we see everywhere. We don't have violence. We have some, but not that much. And when they attack the Prime Minister, in my case, I grab them by the neck. So, you know, I always said that in all my speeches. When I was traveling, I would come back to Canada and I would say, Prime Minister, as I would say, I have the easiest job of any Prime Minister in the land because I was, you know, Prime Minister of Canada. Everywhere I went, we were the example of diversity, tolerance, opportunity, freedom, name it, we had it better than anybody else. And we cannot let that go. It's why normally, you know, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 88 and a half. I played golf yesterday, a 9, and I had 8 bogeys and 1 par. So I played my 8.
Did you have a hole-in-one, John? Hole-in-one? Did you have a hole-in-one? It wouldn't surprise me.
No, I never had a hole-in-one. My wife one day had a hole-in-one.
But you know, I one time did have a hole-in-one, and I don't play golf. I only played a couple of times.
Just
in my
lucky.
life.
You're just lucky.
That's right.
My wife had a hole-in-one, and the press, it was told to the press, and they came to me, and they asked me, is she better than you? And I said, yes, on that hole. Anyway, here, Terry, you asked me the question. I will answer to my best. That's the only thing that I miss in politics. Question period. All the prime minister hated question period, but me. I love it. Because it's a great exercise. The problem is they don't want to enjoy it. But for me, I've been minister for 20 years before I became prime minister, so I knew the file better than any of the questioners. And I'll do my best. And when you reply to questions, you never know if you've done well or not well. So most of the people will go to their assistant and say, was it all right? I didn't have to do that. You know what I will do? Here, put my hand under my armpit. And if it was wet, I had problem. And it was dry, I had done well. So I will tell you at the end of the evening, Terry, if you got me here or not. Merci beaucoup, thank you pour être venu. Et puis là, c'est la période des questions. Vous pouvez me poser des questions en anglais, des questions en français. Et si vous posez des questions du pays de Galles, je vais laisser Terry répondre. I will let you the Welsh part of it.
Merci beaucoup. John and Aragni Cymru. Thank you very much. So, I invited Jean Chrétien to join me tonight because in my career, some of the things that were brought to bear in Canada with Jean when he was the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, but during the 1990s, the government introduced a few very special things that had a big meaning for me personally and for the ecosystem of tech companies. So there was a thing called Team Canada. Now, Jean Chrétien spoke about the Canadian flag. It's very high profile around the world. This is a good country, a great flag, a trusted flag. And here I am going around the world with Team Canada. I'm talking about Germany. I remember one time very high profile in China. I mean, it couldn't be much higher. And then Russia and South America, the United States, raised the flag. And that flag is respected everywhere. Not sort of overly hyped, just real. Now at the time, I was running a company called Newbridge. It had a big impact for me on two things. One, the government under Jean Chrétien introduced this Teams Canada approach, introduced Canadian tech around the world, high profile. Second thing, there was a thing, as you will recall, Jean, called TPC, Technology Partnerships Canada. Now, some people may not be aware of TPC, but TPC, Technology Partnerships Canada, was different. It was a fund that was provided to selected companies in a manner where you could use that fund, but you had to double it. So in my case, I began by being awarded a $5 million TPC, and I doubled it to 10. But that fund could be used for marketing, sales, growth of technology in an R&D sense, or product management, or like, what is it you needed it for? And you would say, this is what I wanted it for, and it would be approved. But remember, it's not a loan, it's not a grant, and it's repayable. Now this is interesting because it's repayable on the growth of sales. So if what you used for grew the business, you take a couple of % of sales. Now just to remind people in the audience, if this is software, every incremental sale is 95% gross profit. The issue is to get the sale. If you get the sale, who cares that you put 2% to pay back the government? So the first 5 million did incredibly well. Thank you very much. Government made a good choice. It was repaid. I applied for a second one. Now, Industry Canada said, well, you know, Terry, you've already had a 5 million fund under the TPC program. And I said, well, there's nothing to say I can't do it a second time. So I did it a second time. Then I did it a third time. So during the period of the 1990s, the government gave me TPC funding of $15 million, which was repaid. But the important thing is that company grew in an era of digital networking transformation from nothing to $10.7 billion and employed close to 9,000 people. I guess the Canadian government were pleased about that growth, and I thank you, Jean Chrétien, for that program with John Manley, who, by the way, did a great job. Now, if I go back in time, very, very briefly, the original product that I did and laid out the circuit card myself, by the way, just in case people didn't know. You see that silly little circuit card? There'll be some people in here that actually know. I laid it out myself with partner Mike Copeland. We designed it. It replaced a 19-inch rack from companies like Ericsson and Nortel and GEC and Western Electric, because you needed this to make a push-button telephone call. Pop, 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 not rotary dial.
Wow.
Now you might say, why am I presenting you with this? It's 30 times smaller than the competition. And I felt a little bit guilty actually selling it for $150. When the competition was $1,500, I felt a little guilty because it was 85% gross profit. I felt as a little bit greedy. But boom! You see, the reason I bring that up, it's important in life to know the industry that you're in, and it's important to catch a changing wave. I call it a tech wave. It's not the first time I talk about that, but most people won't realize this was 30 times smaller than the competition and 10% of the sell price, and boom, it grew at a ferocious rate worldwide. And the next thing we did with that same company called Mitel was use profits that we developed, and we were given a grant by IRAP. IRAP granted the company $270,000 to develop the world's first software-driven PBX. And just by chance, there was a gap underneath the cabinet, and I had a new type of battery called a gel cell. No topping up of the acid. And it fitted underneath that cabinet. And by using gel cells, that PBX could run for 30 hours without power. Now you imagine a little tiny company in Canada developing a switching system. We call it SX200, by the way. But here's this product. And for the first time in Geneva at the telecom show, people came around to look at it, and here's a 200-port PBX. And the minister in North Yemen, Sana, came around. Now, power at the time in North Yemen was cut every afternoon. totally unstable. And he said, what's that? And I said, oh, well, that's gel cells, and it keeps the product going for 30 hours. At that show, I had a purchase order for 2,000 systems. Now, you imagine if you were part of Mitel at the time, and you were part of the development team, the marketing team, I don't care, the finance team, and I say, well, I've got a purchase order for 2,000 systems from North Yemen. They think you are totally nutcase. Actually, they thought I was a total nutcase, but they didn't think I was a nutcase when we began shipping to North Yemen 2,000 systems. And then at the time in India, power was out every afternoon. Well, the gel cells kept it going. India became the second biggest market. Boom, go global. Now, why am I telling you this? It's because in life, take a high level view of what the world needs and catch a wave. Now, in my career, I'm lucky that I've caught a wave at the right time. Timing in life is almost everything. I don't care whether it's a new product or sex, you must get your timing right. So guess what? Here we are, attempting to catch waves. My big wave, I think, was probably Newbridge, and I mentioned about the government and its programs. And boom, I mean, a company grown from nothing, no sales, and about 12 years later, it became $10.7 billion. That's kind of big, 9,000 employees. Like, this was a big, big jump. Government programs helped, no question about it. External affairs, dynamite, it's now called global affairs. Absolutely dynamite. Almost like having your own sales force around the world. So why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing it up because you need to understand what's going on in the planet. If you think global, and I think global. So I'm delighted that you're here tonight, and I would like you to bear in mind that the world of 5G, which was introduced in presentations tonight, we're talking about the next generation of communications. It's wireless. I could ask everyone in the room, what wireless is around you today? You don't know because you can't see it. It wasn't until about 1950 that copper wires were very frustrating. You'd get 300 or 200 pairs of copper in a city into a big distribution frame, and you didn't know what was connected to what a mile away down the road. Until some smart person said, well, I wonder should we color the pairs? What's red with a yellow stripe down there is red with a yellow stripe over here. Easy to connect. What a dynamite idea. Now we live in the next generation world of wireless. It's the biggest investments the planet has ever made. Ever. And the associated things like IoT, compound semiconductors, think CMC microsystems, making and designing and making compound semiconductors right across Canada. This is such a big opportunity for our technical society, whether it's the marketing, the development, or the fabrication side. This is the biggest opportunity, the biggest new tech wave I have ever seen in my career, and I've caught a few. I've caught some good ones. And the government is, generally speaking, whether it's external affairs, whether it's R&D funding, whether it's the TPC program, which made a big impact to me, and companies that I work with. So what's my advice tonight? Let's open up this discussion. IoT, massive growth. Wireless connectivity, unprecedented growth that's going on now. Timing is incredibly important right now. This is taking off now. Taking off now. And we've got the talent in our society to do that. In my career, I was very lucky with that Newbridge growth, which the Prime Minister at the time knows all about. And the export side of things, they know all about it. And then, what I also did was build an ecosystem of about 100 companies to partner. So we need to be aware that don't try and do everything yourself. Be prepared to partner on the tech side. Be prepared to understand the global growth of 5G in particular and the associated solutions where you need partners. There are people in this room that are global in this new era. We are very lucky to live here. We're very lucky to be Canadian. We have a trusted flag, and at the right time we have to catch this new tech wave and grow with it. We can do it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kitchen, were you going to say something else, or have you got some time for some questions?
No, I let my friend, I let him speak after me.
Please
So
go
I
ahead.
don't know if you want to ask me questions.
They do? Yeah. Go
ahead.
Have any questions?
Shoot.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of hands, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll use this sort right here.
You use your mic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gretchen. Really honored to have you here tonight. What do you, first of all, you know a lot about China, and we don't want to get into Chinese politics, but are you optimistic about somehow we can recover relationships so that we can truly have the kind of trading relationship with China that we used to have and that we potentially could have?
You know, we'll probably not go to where we were because, Terry referred to that. Team Canada was a big move for them. When I went there in 1994, the fall of 94, with 500 businessmen or university leader and the premier, it was the biggest delegation they ever received. They were extremely impressed. Juranji, later on in a big hall, 5,000 people, had said, Canada is the best friend of China. Why? It's because we had moved before everybody else. The first investment of China was in British Columbia on a pulp mill in partnership with Power Corporation, with Paul Desmarais. And in fact, it was a file that was in the hand of my son-in-law. And we arrived there at the right time. Of course, we had problems. I don't want to debate that. Government to succeed, you operate differently than you. They make their own decision. I'm not there to criticize anybody. Send say hello for me to that person. It will come back. I talk with them. We cannot go there anymore. But they understand that we're a very good political, a business partner for them. We might be in a different position today because they were looking very much at our resources. Now with what is happening in the globe, we have probably help for China to become the partners of Russia. And all the resources of Siberia now are accessible to the market of China. I don't want to discuss all the politics of it. I was involved in the 90s about the present situation that could have been avoided. But now, they might depend less on us than they were. But in terms of agriculture, products, and so on, we still have the land and the product, and they will need a lot of our resources. So we'll remain, we can build back a good relation with them. We think that when we had a difficulty with them some years ago, it was a big problem for us, but it was not a very big problem for them. We're small. We should not think we're very big. We have to remain, to know what we are. And if we are humble enough to do that, we'll restore good relation. I will give you one thing that made me friends with them. is one day I was very tired as Prime Minister and I was in New Brunswick. And I was cornered in a little place and I was going to China. And the press was telling me, Mr. Chrétien, well, Prime Minister, will you tell them this and tell them that? And I was a bit tired. I said, you guys, wait a minute. There are 1.3 billion people. And I represent 35 million people. It's one city in China. And you want me to tell them what to do. But you don't want me to tell the Premier of Saskatchewan what to do. Mind your business, Chrétien, you know. You have to respect provincial jurisdiction. We have to be realistic about reality. So, you know, it will come. And what we have to be careful about. And it was Louis Salamon who said that one day, a long time ago. He was a prime minister, very older guy, wise guy. We said, never make your foreign policies in relation to the publicity you have in Canada. Make the decision en fonction of what is the best for the country. So sometimes, you know, I've been criticized a hell of a lot in my life. Probably more than anybody else. But nobody remembers it. You know, it's amazing. When I get up, people are very friendly.
Always forgiven.
You know, yeah, no, they say, you had a good government. Some tell me you should go back. And I say, why not? No, it's a joke. Just to tell you an anecdote, I was trapped, somebody told me that not long ago. I said, never, don't. I said, makes no sense. And after that, I had a good pause. And I said, yes, I'm coming back. I said, I will go out and say, you know, Gladstone in 1892 came back as Prime Minister of Great Britain for his fourth mandate, and he was 84. So 84 in 1892 is 96 today. So I have 6 more years to think about it. And I said I will run, and I will say that I will be the radical center in politics. I will not be the prisoner of the left, neither the prisoner of the left or the right. I will be the radical center. And I will tell the people, I'm running to be Prime Minister. And if you vote against me, I will say thank you. And if you force me to come back, I will oblige. So the guy said, John, it's the best goddamn slogan you could have. No, but you know, we're still in a good position. And you know, there's ups and downs. Everybody has ups and downs. But I'm an optimist by nature. And when I look at what was Canada when I got elected in 1963 to what Canada is today, we made a hell of a lot of progress. And we have remained what we are. As I said, you know, tolerance, acceptance of diversity, freedom, opportunities, an example to the world. And there shall be, it would be great if there were to be many more Canada around the globe. So that's my statement. In the House of Commons, I had only 45 seconds. I don't more.
Now, in my case, just to go down that same track, I set up a joint venture for Mytel in China in 1978, and that went on until 2000. And that meant very frequently with the joint venture, I would travel and do business, which I did a similar thing with the Newbridge years, with all 33 provinces. So I got to know lots of people and became friendly with them in China. And you might remember when we were both there with the Team Canada, how many people I knew. So I got very friendly with lots of people there, technically good. I watched the change in the society. As an example, everything in Shanghai was low-rise. Today everything's high-rise and there's no low-rise. But I got very used to that. And again, I did a similar thing in Russia for a period of 12 years, almost every quarter, going to board meetings with the Bell Canada equivalent, MGTS in the Soviet Union. So again, getting used to the societies from a tech perspective. And so I learned a lot as I did the equivalent of what you might say a 50-50 ownership. But it took Canada, or at least the Canadian tech I was involved in, very much around the world via a joint venture. I'd rather have 50% of something which is successful than 100% of nothing, which by the way still equates to nothing.
Yes, another question?
Monsieur Chrétien, j'aimerais vous remercier d'avoir accepté l'invitation de Terry Matthews to venir à Canada. Just for a reminder, you know that Canada North is the largest technology park in the country, 540 plus companies in high tech, and generated a couple of years about $13.5 billion in our Canadian GDP. So congratulations to the ecosystem. I heard you say that the soil is very fertile in Canada for 5G or other technologies. You know that the business expenditure in R&D in this country is in free fall. It's been in free fall for the past 20 years. Okay, we're below 1.7% of GDP now. The federal government is lagging in investing in universities research. Okay, I represent the University of Ottawa, colleagues from Carleton University. We established ourselves here in the tech park. I'd like to hear you about, in the 2021 budget, the federal government announced the new DARPA, potentially the new DARPA program. The Canadian Advanced Research Project Agency, which is mimicking the DARPA in the United States. High reward, high risk type project for industry. I'd like to hear you on what is needed for the federal government to kickstart this economy again in this 5G or pick one. Is it cybersecurity? Is it quantum technology or whatever? I mean, the triple ecosystem, the triple helix that exists between universities, industry, I should say industry first, government and university is very important. So how do we work together to try to bring what Terry mentioned here in Canada? Thank you.
I don't think that's a very fair question for Jean Credit.
It's all right. I don't mind to have a...
Well, what he's saying is, please come back.
No, don't wish me bad luck. I would tell you, it depends on the mood. We've done a lot. Remember the Chair of Excellence. We've done the Millennium Scholarship Program. There's a lot of programs that we put forward. You remember when I started, we were saying of Canada there was a brain drain. When I left, there was a brain gain. People with universities were inviting professors from abroad to teach. So we've made progress. Of course, the university always want more. And but the more is taxpayers' money, too. So, you have to balance things, but if I'm not mistaken, we have one of the highest level of education of any country in the world. We have more people graduating from university per capita than anybody else. So we're not lagging, but there is always more we can do. There is too, to be honest, what is about the productivity of the universities themselves. Sometimes I find that the productivity is not great. They teach 3 hours a week, and after 4 years they take a sabbatical of 1 year. I never had the chance to have a sabbatical in my whole career, 40 years on the House of Commons. So, we have to balance things. And of course we are for education. If they have new ideas, we have to help. We did. You remember when was scholarship, the Chair of Excellence. I remember I was at a meeting of the progressive governance, that means that the leaders of countries that were not to the left or the right. There was Tony Blair and Bill Clinton, many others, and I was there, and I was in Germany. And Tony Blair asked me about, with his official, what we had done with the Chair of Excellence. You know, we had 1,000 of them, if I recall. They decided to copy us with 50. And it was Great Britain. So we were not behind others, but the government has other priorities too, to me. But you have to keep the pressure. And the best way to be successful under pressure, improve the productivities of the teachers. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend you.
No, you're not.
Chrétien,
So I would like to
dis ce qui passe.
Vous avez plus vers le côté industriel.
Ah, ben ça.
On the industrial side of things, Terry.
It's how to transfer the science to the industrial side. It is always, you know, if you put too much on that, the university will say, no, it's more important to invest into the pure science. And if you don't have pure science, you will not have industrial profits. So it's hard to balance all these things, among a few other problems that a prime minister has to face when he gets up in the morning. You know, it's thank you for what you're doing right, putting pressure. You have to keep doing that. And it will be somewhat successful. Hopefully, completely successful. I'm not there anymore. Merci. Suivant.
My view in this discussion is to take any development going on within universities and tie it to client requirements. I always love in life listening carefully, in detail, what is the requirement for clients, and if there ever has been a time, now is the time. We are going through an era now in the world of communications and applications, the likes of which we have not seen before unless we go back in the time of Alexander Graham Bell. Copper wires had to go to allow you to connect. What do you use for those connections? Central office, 48 volts, but then balanced audio, some kind of digital later, private branch exchanges. I mean, there was a monster world development around twisted pair copper cable. There was a monster development. We're going through the same issues now. And what I like to keep in my mind is a little bit like the following. Along came the world of what we call central offices. You wanted to connect with someone else, you'd have copper wires going to a telephone, the world of Alexander Graham Bell, and you'd go to an operator. Can I help you connect? Yes, can you connect me to Jean Chrétien? Just a moment. Jean Chrétien would answer the phone, and the operator would therefore have completed the call. And that went to some automated arrangement where you could actually dial your own number. Very good, everybody knows this story, that you'd still need an operator sometime in the central office, but you could also dial direct. Very, very good. I mean, everybody understands that. And then people found within an office or a company that there was 10 times as much traffic in the enterprise as the outside calls. So why is it you keep calling to the central office? No. Have a private branch exchange for the enterprise. Then that became a private automatic branch exchange. Now you live with the current world where the amount of bandwidth in the network can take out your computer resources and make it shared. That's the world of cloud. Thank you very much. Everybody can relate to that. But could it be that the amount of traffic, the amount of bandwidth required, the latency required, is so big in going to some central resource, just like a central office, that you say, no, for enterprises we do it local. Hence the world of edge compute. That is an unbelievable growth engine worldwide, opening up like literally monster opportunities. And in our society, whether you understand it or not, that is what we understand. We understand networks. We understand computer resources for enterprises. Thank you.